Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Cyrus. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a brief little introduction to virtualization. There's probably going to be a part two to this entire topic just because it's so vast and I guess kind of important for especially the IT world. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off by explaining virtualization, and to be honest, it's actually a pretty simple concept to grasp after you get the basics down. So here I have software. It's free. It's called. Oh, I actually opened up two instances of it. Let's close this one. All right. It's actually called Oracle VM VirtualBox. So this is something called a hypervisor, and it's developed by Oracle, which is the same company that created Java. So it's pretty reliable. It's free, so I suppose open source. I'm not sure, I have to check. But there are other hypervisors out there. So let me just first explain or kind of like express what virtualization means. So let's get Paint. I always wanted to do this. Let's get MS Paint out. Let's explain virtualization via MS Paint because that's what everybody wants. So we're gonna start off with this is going to be our server. Now your server can be anything really, any physical machine, any physical hardware. It could be my Toshiba laptop right now, or it could be some sort of full-on data center like server in Google, in some sort of Google headquarter. Um, but a server is basically any physical machine in this sense. And we're not going to get too in depth into the networking for now. I'm just going to briefly overview that. But let's just finish this thought first. So we got a server, and then the next layer of your computer would obviously be your BIOS. So let's do B for BIOS, and I intentionally made it small because I want to emphasize the fact that the BIOS is pretty small. It's actually your ROM chip inside your computer. If you don't know what ROM is, you should probably search it up right now. But your BIOS is actually pre-installed onto your ROM chip. So it's firmware essentially. Um, so basically, the first thing your computer does when it boots up and power goes through it, the CPU kind of runs and then goes to your ROM, read-only memory, and it just reads in what the BIOS has to say. Now the BIOS is pretty simple, and all it really says is boot off whatever is above me and in whatever sequence I want it to be in. And I'll get to that probably in a later episode. The different levels of BIOS, like different I guess options you can enable in BIOS. But let's move on for now. So after BIOS says to boot off whatever's next, it boots off typically an OS. So an OS is an operating system. It could be Windows, it could be Mac. For a Mac computer, obviously, you're going to start off with a Mac, and then you log in and like go on Google Chrome and go on YouTube and stuff. I don't know. And same thing for Windows, right? Except it's a Windows version. OS is basically like the user-friendly platform that also allows for many different things that you can do with your computer, especially if you have administrator privileges. But in this case, we're actually not going to be looking at the OS because a hypervisor, which I mentioned before, if you do recall, actually takes the place of an OS in this sense. And for some reason, my uh, thing went really thin for some reason. Don't know why that happened, but whatever. I guess it's sort of a neater. I don't know, but the hypervisor takes the place of the OS. So And this entire system right here, the system of arrows and stuff, it's called boot sequence. So the hypervisor is next on the boot sequence list. And the hypervisor is kind of special. You could consider it an operating system if you like, but I consider it sort of like a secondary BIOS. Now this BIOS, this operating system, again, whatever you want to call it, it's something special because what it can do is it can actually go ahead and create um, other uh, virtualized platforms for more operating systems. So let's put that down. Trying to make this quick. Obviously, I'm not an artist. OS, OS, OS. All right. Yes, by the way, I write my S's from the bottom up. It's just a habit, but you know, you'll get used to it, I guess. So a hypervisor is special in this way, that it creates um, pretty much however many operating systems you want, that obviously the computer can support, and you can also adjust the specs for each operating system or each virtual machine. So let's say I want to give this guy 6 gigabytes of RAM. Let's say I have a maximum of 3.3 gigahertz CPU power. I'll give him 2, and for uh, like regular storage, let's give them 100 gigs out of my 1 terabyte. That's open. So I can change these numbers. So I just randomly came up with numbers right now on the spot. You can make them any numbers you want as long as your physical machine can handle it. You know, so I have 1 terabyte of storage. I can't do 1,100 gigabytes of storage for this virtual machine. It doesn't work like that. Because then I need to add in an additional 1,000. Sorry, an additional 100 gigabytes, which I don't think anyone wants to do, especially to a laptop. And if I give instead of 2 gigahertz, which is within the limit of 3, instead give them like 4, then I'd actually need to add computing power to the virtual machine. I can also, adjust the RAM. Same thing applies. And you can do this for all 3 VMs or all 4 or all 5. Maybe even you have only 1 VM, maybe 2, maybe 1,000. Doesn't matter. As long as your virtual machines can run on your computer, whether individually or all simultaneously or something like that, and your computer can support it, then the virtual machine is accessible and you can use it. Now, what's so special about virtualization and why do you use it? And what's the difference between virtualization and hypervisors and stuff from just regular hardware partitioning? So hardware partitioning, let's create a sort of a parallel universe here. Um, so that's your server. This is your BIOS. Let's go up a little bit. This is your OS. Notice how, as I said, these two can be interchanged. But for here, let's focus on the OS. So you may notice, or you may know, that Windows actually supports an option to do a dual boot on your hard drive, which goes back to system. All right, and it allows you to install 2 different operating systems on the same physical machine. So yeah, you can install Windows on one and Mac on the other one. I mean, Windows doesn't even have this option. I'm sorry. The actual like firmware of the computer has this option, I suppose. But as I was saying, you could have 2 different computers essentially, or 2 different operating systems at least. Sorry, I had a little bit of a burp there. You have 2 different operating systems, and yeah, they're on the same hard drive. Now that's something I want to point out. It's very important, especially when trying to find the differences between virtualized platforms and just hardware partitioning. So you have two different operating systems, but the thing is, you can't actually change the specs like you could for virtual machines. So you don't have that capability, that freedom. Instead, you have to deal with having each operating system instance cutting down all of your specs by half or by around half, which can end up being sort of annoying, um, you know and especially the fact that it's all stored on one hard drive, this system, going back to the system, especially because of that, hackers or anyone who has access to your hard drive potentially has all of your data. Um, I mean, not physical. I don't mean physically taking your hard drive. That's sort of an extreme version. But I'm saying if someone were to hack into your Windows machine from some other place and they have access to your files, well, you're potentially putting your other operating system that you're dual booting with at risk. So virtual machines don't do that because for virtual machines, after it goes through this layer of hypervisor, actually creates some sort of virtual hard disk. And you can see that in uh, an Oracle VM VirtualBox. When I want to create a new machine, let's make this just a regular. Uh, let's make this a, I don't know. Let's make it Kali Linux. Um, I don't know. I'm not gonna actually create this machine anyway. Kali Linux is a pretty cool Linux distribution, though. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let me see. Actually, it's Debian. All right. I actually created another Kali virtual machine here, but that's for another day. So here I can adjust whatever amount of RAM I want to give it. Let's give it exactly 1 gig apparently. Um, this is what I wanted to show you guys. The hard disk, virtual hard disk. You can create one or you can add on to one. But essentially what I'm trying to get at here is that you have sort of an extra buffer. So let's just call it V, VHS or virtual hard disk, so VHD, I guess. But let's just call it V here for simplicity. So it creates virtual hard disks, and they're isolated, as you can see. So if a hacker tries to get at you, although like the only files they'll see would lead back to this, the virtual hard disk. So essentially, you're pretty much safe unless like there's a flaw in the hypervisor that they can exploit, and they can go all the way to your actual system, in which they will pretty much have full control of your computer, and they can hijack it, do whatever they want with it, use it as a puppet, whatever. Um, yeah, um, just don't let that happen to you. But sometimes it can't be helped. There are always like flaws in certain hypervisors. And Oracle VM VirtualBox updates regularly, so I mean, there's obviously a higher chance of it having flaws in there because frequent updates means more chances for a software to have some flaws, some programming errors. Um, yeah, but I guess that's part one of virtualization. Part two, I know I didn't really get into, I didn't even scratch the surface of networking with virtualization, but I'll get to that in part two, which I'm going to start right now when I end this. Thanks, guys, for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, share with your pals, Be sure to post any questions below. I'll try to get to them as fast as I can, really. Um, and until next time, see you guys. Goodbye.